So to beat him when he's past his prime just feels dishonorable, and I'd feel dirty for doing that. There's no amount of money on the planet that could convince me to fight Mike Tyson.
Andrew Tate made light of Jake Paul's decision to challenge Mike Tyson. The iconic boxer is nearly 60 years old, and many believe Jake Paul is unfairly in the lead in this fight. Former mixed martial arts fighter Tony has offered an explanation for Jake Paul's considerable edge against Iron Mike. Examine it carefully. Jake Paul was likewise chastised by the adult entertainment industry for facing Mike Tyson in a bout.
It wasn't good enough for you. That Mike Tyson, if it wasn't for Mike Tyson, Jake Paul wouldn't be damn Jake Paul. It was on Tyson versus Roy Jones where you saw the infamous knockout.
The boxing community is furious that Jake Paul wants to fight an icon in the sport who isn't strong enough to compete against a boxer almost 30 years his junior. But what do the experts think of Iron Mike's abilities? At the age of 57, is he still capable of defeating opponents? Watch this video and stay tuned to discover out. The fact that Jake Paul wishes to challenge Mike Tyson in the fight, scheduled for July 20 in Texas, has angered the boxing community. A lot of people have been responding to this fight and discussing their opinions about the current state of boxing. Top G Andrew Tate recently discussed the potential fight, calling it an extremely
So to beat him when he's past his prime just feels dishonorable, and I'd feel dirty for doing that. There's no amount of money on the planet that could convince me to fight Mike Tyson.
In the boxing world, Mike Tyson is a living legend. Tate, who is renowned for his frank criticism and skill on social media, recently expressed his displeasure at the idea of taking on a living legend. Tate declined this potential battle because he has a lot of respect for the sport and its participants. That Tyson would think about fighting after his peak was something he described as horrifying. Tate highlights a critical stance on the ethics of sporting events. He recognizes Tyson's unparalleled accomplishments in boxing, but he also calls attention to the disgrace he would feel in attempting to exploit an elderly player who had once dominated the sport with unparalleled skill and ferocity. Tate's stance is a powerful condemnation of the spectacle fight movement of today, which often prioritizes entertainment value over sportsmanship in an era where boxing matches starring big-name stars draw huge crowds and sponsorships. Tate's ethical rejection of the idea of taking on Tyson in a battle for money shows how crucial it is to protect the legacy and well-being of retired athletes. In combat sports, Tate exhibits his commitment to the values of honor and sportsmanship. This point of view inspires a deeper discussion about the morality of these bouts and the players' and promoters' duties to preserve the legacy of the sport. Tate's choice not to confront Tyson in the ring is not only a personal one, it also conveys a message about the ethics of competition and the continuing debt of appreciation that future generations owe to those who helped to pioneer the sport. In a fight, Jake Paul is less afraid to challenge Tyson. Paul has become well known in recent years for his willingness to fight some of the biggest names in the sport, even if they haven't had much experience in traditional boxing. But given how different he and Mike Tyson are from one another, their next fight will be unlike any of their previous ones. Youth is pitted against experience, the energy of the present against legendary status, and social media celebrity against youth. In Against the Valor of the Past, Mike Tyson, who is nearly 60 years old, is held in the highest regard and admiration by his fellow boxers. His return to the ring in this specific setting raises important questions about sports entertainment ethics, the potential for utilizing legendary athletes for financial gain, and the safety concerns associated with an aging athlete engaging in such a physically taxing sport. Fans and critics alike are unsure about this. Between the excitement that Tyson will finally become the man he once was and the fear that the fight will damage the reputation of one of boxing's greatest heroes, this battle also demonstrates how boxing is changing and how it's getting harder to tell the difference between sport and entertainment when celebrities like Jake are involved. Apart from questioning traditional notions of athletic brilliance and rivalry, Paul has attracted a younger, more varied viewership and established a novel dynamic in the sport. The discussion that accompanied the fight is representative of broader discussions on what boxing means in the modern era, promoter responsibilities, and safety measures needed to protect the sport's legacy and athletes. Mike Tyson has demonstrated that he still has what it takes to take on a few challenges in the boxing ring, despite reaching the age of 60. Even after he retired 20 years ago, His fans are still in awe of the strength and skill he exhibits in his most recent training video. Sports experts and former athletes point out that you can't become a professional athlete after a certain age. Olympic bronze medalist Tony, a former professional boxer who was undefeated, offered a careful assessment of the upcoming match, focusing in especially on Tyson's aging process. Jeff acknowledged the gamut of emotions boxing fans feel about the match and openly expressed his distaste and enthusiasm for it. Jeff also brought out the fact that Tyson was almost 58 years old at the time of the fight, having not participated in a professional fight since 2005. Apart from an exhibition fight against Roy Jones Jr. 4 years ago, Tyson's lack of action cast severe question on his ability to compete at the highest level, especially against someone like Jake Paul, who has been consistent in his preparation and competition.
Me as a fighter, what happens when you get old? You don't lose your power. You can see on the video he's still got power in his punch. But what goes first as you get older as a boxer is your reaction time.
When it comes to the physical toll that aging has on boxers in particular, Jeff's comments were really astute. He stressed that even if an athlete may still be strong, as they age, their capacity to react fast and take hits will gradually decline. Tyson finds this decrease extremely painful, considering he has faced some of the hardest punchers in boxing history. Jeff had doubts about Tyson's resilience after his stellar career and a lifestyle that hasn't always been conducive to maintaining peak physical condition. He also emphasized the disparities in the fighter's current way of life. Jake Paul leads the lifestyle of a professional athlete, always honing his craft, thanks to his access to the greatest trainers, nutritionists, and strength coaches. Conversely, Tyson has exhibited more careless attitudes in recent years, which are typically unrelated to exceptional athletic accomplishments. Jeff argued that the outcome of the conflict could be significantly impacted by this difference in lifestyle. Jeff also talked about Tyson's motivations for fighting at such a young age, speculating that financial inducements were most likely a big one. He bemoaned the fact that Tyson could be bought for a spectacle like that and thought about the larger implications for retired athletes who return to competition for financial benefit. The morality of this fight has been questioned by both experts and fans. Among the many significant issues this topic raises are the exploitation of well-known athletes for financial gain, potential risks to their health and well-being, and the impact on the sport's legitimacy. Carl Froch, the former four-time world boxing champion, expressed his deep dissatisfaction with Jake Paul's fight against Mike Tyson and took several digs at the YouTuber. He criticized the contest as fundamentally unfair, pointing out the stark age and experience gaps between the two participants. Calling Jake Paul a bully for taking on Tyson, who was almost 60 years old, he brought up the moral and ethical questions the fight raised. Froch brought up Tyson's well-known back problems and his lifestyle, which includes significant cannabis usage, in order to communicate her concerns about his physical condition. Froch questioned Jake Paul's reasoning for fighting an older retired fighter, pointing out that Paul's reputation as a decent boxer remains unchanged whether he wins or loses against Tyson. Froch also discussed the potential motivations behind the match, stating that money was most likely the driving force behind both sides' decisions, but expressing sadness if Tyson was compelled by necessity. He claimed it was improper to classify the bout as a professional boxing match, mocking the sport and exploiting Tyson's fame for personal gain. Froch also questioned Jake Paul's boxing record, highlighting a fight in which Paul was defeated by Tommy Fury and dismissing Paul's skill level and previous fights as unproven. Telling a personal tale, Froch portrayed Paul as a fighter who chooses his opponents well to maintain the illusion of boxing prowess. After calling Froch out, Paul vanished when Froch confronted him. Froch concluded by expressing concerns about the current situation of professional boxing and drawing comparisons between it and the UFC, where the greatest competitors compete regularly. He praised the UFC for preserving the sport and organizing fights in an easy-to-understand way. Integrity suggests that the successes of the UFC could be advantageous to boxing. The next fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, it's proof of the changing nature of boxing, where morality, legacy, and age intersect in subtle ways, even though many may oppose it. While some view the match as proof of Tyson's perseverance and continued popularity, others view it as a divisive spectacle that puts his health and legacy at risk as one of the greatest boxers in history. As the fight draws nearer, the discussions it has sparked about age, athleticism, SM, and sports ethics remain pertinent, highlighting the diversity of opinions regarding what makes for an engaging and respectable fight. So, what are your thoughts on this fight? Do you agree with the professionals? Carl Froch and the rest are tearing it up. Paul Jake, do you also expect this to be a conflict? Leave a comment below to let us know.